welcome to the Q&A. Is B Corp right for your business? I'm Luke Hedley-Dent. I'm the Member Engagement Exec at the Chamber, and I'll be your host for today. I'm also joined by Amy Lishman, who is our Head of Member Engagement, as my co-host. Today, we are delighted to be joined by Demi Heath. Demi is a sustainability consultant and founder of Hearth Sustainability. And she's here to talk about what the B Corp certification process looks like, the changes coming to B Corp standards, and what businesses can do to sort of get started on their sustainability journey. We'll be asking Demi some prepared questions, all designed to give you answers to thoughts you've been having or discussions you've been having with your teams. Welcome, Demi. Thank you so much for joining us on this call and hosting this session with me. So to sort of get started, I think we want to have a sort of broader view of it about general certification process. So yeah, when are certifications beneficial to businesses?
Hi everybody, and thanks Luke for the introduction. It's nice to see so many faces on such a gloriously sunny day. So yeah, just kind of kicking off talking about certifications in general. It's a question that I do get asked about certifications, whether they're actually worth it or not. I think it really depends where you're at in your business journey. You might be too early on to be able to start thinking about certifications in general. However, I think mostly certifications are really useful because they're signaling to all of your stakeholders that you're building a more resilient business and you're walking the talk. Somebody from outside has come into your business and agreed that you are doing what you're saying that you're doing. That goes for ESG certifications or health and safety certifications, legal certifications. They're really, really beneficial just to make sure we've got some transparency around what people are claiming they're doing. So having that third-party assurance is really important, and really within the ESG space becomes very important because we're in this time where we're all still learning together. We're all still trying to figure out what is best practice. There's new technology, there's new processes that are coming out all the time. So being able to work against a gold standard and a standardized framework that is global is essential to be able to really figure out where your business is currently at. And I think B Corp in particular does this really well because it's very comprehensive. Certifications also give you credibility. So being able to increase your reputation and your trust amongst your stakeholders is really important, particularly when you're trying to access broader capital. So whether you're looking for investment in the business or bank loans, I know banks in particular are really starting to ask, do you have an environmental policy? Have you thought about your social goals? How transparent are you being? So really important to make sure that your business is set up to be able to answer those questions for the long term. And then, of course, when you're going throughout a certification process, it's going to help you figure out where your gaps are. So that's enabling you to mitigate any risk that you might have because you're taking a broader look at what risk actually is to the business. It goes beyond just that kind of financial bottom line to look at the longer term impacts and really trying to make sure that you're going to be compliant for any laws and regulations that come up in the future.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. That's great. I think so many benefits to certification and as you said, showing that to your stakeholders. You touched on there, being at the right stage of your business and whether it would be the right moment to do that. We just had a question come in before, and let me know if you're going to be answering this later. But someone asked if creating your sort of own impact reporting framework that's actually specific to your business could be a better option.
It's a really good question. I think, not something that I was going to touch on later on, so good to ask now. I think when there's so many amazing frameworks and standards out there already, it would essentially be a waste of people's time to build out their own. The B Corp impact assessment tool is free to access. So that is something that is built up and around kind of where your business is, how big it is, and what industry you're in. So it is specific to the type of business that you own. And any other kind of standards that you look at, any other frameworks, they are kind of best in practice. And so creating your own as we've said, that doesn't create that kind of third party credibility that having a certification or a framework gives you. Always good to be kind of looking at the specifics of what your business does, absolutely, but there's lots of free tools and advice available out there. So I wouldn't, I personally wouldn't waste time on researching all of that and then trying to build out my own.
Great. Well, thanks for answering that. So I think our second question, going more into sort of the B Corp space. As I was saying earlier, we're seeing lots of more people getting certified and becoming B Corps. Why is it that the B Corp community has grown so much recently?
It's a really good question, and it's been really exciting to see how much it's grown over the past year or so. In particular, it's just been exponential. It's really, really taken off. I think there's a few different reasons behind this. One is the demand that we're seeing from all stakeholder groups, really, to have that outside assurance that companies are doing what they're saying that they're doing, because customers and stakeholders in general are looking to make sure that whoever they're buying from, whoever they're working for, are thinking about their environmental impact and their social impact. So the demand is definitely there from investors, from consumers, and also from supply chains. I've been working with some smaller businesses recently that are looking to work with kind of big international brands, and they will only work with B Corps, or they will only work with minority founded businesses on top of the supply chain that they already have. So when they're going out to tender, they're saying, well, we're B Corp and we're big, we only want our supply chain to be B Corp as well. So really good to kind of bear in mind, even if you're not becoming B Corp, that you've got an ESG policy and strategy in place. I think we're going to see a much bigger shift towards those being kind of necessary essentials. We also some like really high profile, amazing businesses join the B Corp community in recent years. The Guardian is a great example. Patagonia is, of course, like the big the big hitter in that. In the UK, we've got giffgaff, Pucker Herbs, Innocent is B Corp as well. So there's some really big brands that you will go into a supermarket and see that B Corp logo, which is really exciting and great for the community. The certification process behind the scenes has also improved as well. So kind of around the 2020 mark, there was a huge influx of applications from businesses. I think all business owners and kind of operations managers were able to take a little bit of a step back during that time and put their applications through. And so B Lab on the back end, they are the owners of the certification and the assessment tool. They really had to work very quickly on figuring out how to increase their processes and speed up and make efficiencies. So they've done all that over the last couple of years, and it just means that the speed at which you're getting through the application process is a lot quicker now. And then, of course, we've got a very vocal community who, of course, sing the praises of B Corps and of the community. So I think when that voice just starts getting louder and louder and people go out talking about what their business is doing and why it's so great and they're a B Corp, that is really helpful to the community. The main thing I would say is that it is proving itself to be the most comprehensive certification for ESG out there. And we will touch upon that later, but obviously I'm an evangelist in this, but I've definitely done research into other certifications, and there's not really any others out there that get to the kind of the broadness that B Corp is able to touch upon.
Of course. Oh, fantastic. Lots of reasons why it's growing from outside, customers, but also from the B Corp itself and changing that process and making it easier. Delving more into sort of the B Corp process itself. We just wanted to ask sort of what is B Corp and what are its benefits, just to give a broad overview of that. If that's
sure.
possible.
So B Corp is, and I'm going to really sound like I'm working for them now. I'm not. So B Corp is a community of people that believe business can be a force for good. So looking at the impacts that businesses have on society overall. and not just focusing on the shareholder returns at the end. So historically, capitalist models are only built to make sure that the shareholder gets a good return on their investment at the end of each quarter, at the end of each financial year. What B corporations are trying to change and shift is to say, capitalist model has brought us a lot of benefits. How can we make that even better? So we do that by broadening out who we're working for. It's not just the shareholders, it's all stakeholders to the business. So how are the decision-making processes going towards making good decisions for all the stakeholders to the business, whether that's the community you're operating in, the people who work for you, how transparent you're being out to broader society. And so by doing that, we're really taking a broader, resilient look at how we can make the business last for a longer period of time. If we're just looking at the shareholders, we've seen that operates on this kind of exponential growth mindset that is not sustainable. That is not what's going to help us build a better society, look after our planet for the long term. So really trying to shift decision-making processes and power onto thinking about the broader category of people that you're impacting. Shareholders are still important, of course, but they are one of quite a few. And so B Corp offers a assessment tool, which I've already mentioned, that is free and accessible, open to everybody. There's 150,000 businesses using it across the world at the moment.
Wow.
Anybody can go in and start measuring their impact and looking at how they can make improvements within their business. And once you've kind of started using that tool, they then offer the audit and certification process to be able to confirm that you are doing all of those things that you've laid out in the assessment, and to give you that stamp of approval and give you access to the community moving forward.
Amazing. I mean, yeah. But you touched on some of the benefits there. About not going for that sort of unsustainable growth goal, instead of having that all the stakeholders views in mind as well. Can you delve into a bit more sort of what are the benefits of B Corp and for the business as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So the community is definitely a strong one for me. So there's 9,000 B Corp, well, coming up to 9,000 B Corps globally. There's 2,000 in the UK alone. I've been doing a bit of work recently as a sustainability manager alongside my consultancy role. And just B Corp is the first place that I go when I'm looking for a new supplier, a new product, a new relationship to build. And having access to such a large community in the UK is great. I was doing this previously in New Zealand. There was about 20 of us. So got to know the community really well. So the extensiveness of the UK community is really incredible. And then on top of that, B Corps are better performing. So there was a report done, I think it was in 2021, that showed that B Corps had higher growth and higher innovation rates compared to regular businesses, lower attrition rates, higher levels of resilience, bigger brand trust, and more access to capital raising as well. So across the board, B Corps were just doing a lot better. When I spoke about that resilience piece, that was particularly looking at how businesses came through COVID pandemic. Across 2020, and there were higher rates of growth and continuing business amongst the B Corp community. And then this year, B Lab have done a report on the level of awareness of B Corps in the UK. So the level of awareness at the moment is at 40% within the country. So 40% of people know of B Corp, have heard of it, have seen the logo somewhere. So that's really high recognition for a certification. And then on top of that, 60% of people said that they consider certifications when they're making decisions. So whether that's making a decision about what they're buying, who they're working for, they will take those things into account. And then the best stat out of this report for me was that 70% of people say that B Corps are having a positive impact on society and the planet. And of the 30% who didn't answer positively to that, they said they just didn't know enough about what B Corp is doing. So it's an overwhelmingly positive reaction to B Corp and the community, which is remarkable to me. I think that's really incredible.
Yeah, it's great to get an insight of it to the actual community that's out there as well. I don't think many people know about that. And yeah, thanks for giving those stats, because they're great to know, sort of back up sort of why it can be really good. Yeah, so I think moving on to the next question, we wanted to let people know about the certification process and what that actually looks like. So yeah, what is the certification process? If you could delve into that a bit, that'd be great.
Absolutely. And this is the thing that people feel confused about, or it can feel very overwhelming. So I'm going to take you through step by step what happens. So as I mentioned before, the BIA, the B Impact Assessment, is the free tool that you can use. You can go on, create an account for your business today, and start working through the questions. So that assessment, I think I mentioned before, is tailored to the size of your business. So that's done on how many people you have or how much revenue you earn, where in the world you're based, because if you're based in Southeast Asia, your business is going to be looking quite different to the UK. And then it's also very tailored to your industry. So looking at overall, are you a service industry or manufacturing, and then digging down into the specifics of what it is that you do. Your BIA is then tailored with specific questions for your business. There's 160 odd industries that are either using the tool or have certified under the tool. So it really does cover everything, really. Not to say that there's not nuances that can occasionally get missed, but they are very specific instances. It's not something I come across very often. So you're in the tool, you've kind of gone through, answered the questions, and generally most businesses will come out with a score of around 50. That is the average globally, completely to be expected. I think this is where a lot of people end up feeling stuck, because the score that you need to submit is 80, and that can feel quite far off for a lot of people. 10 points come from making the legal change to become a B Corp. So this is changing your business document, your articles of association, to make that change that we spoke about, from considering only shareholders to all stakeholders. So it's an added statement in your articles that you need to get signed off by your board or your managing directors, and that gives you 10 points alone. So that immediately removes one barrier. So of course the B Corp community is about continuous improvement. So I think people can go into this with the mindset of, you want to make the changes immediately and quickly. We're not going to do that as a society or as individuals. It's about making small changes where you can, and what's going to work practically for your organization. So spending some time making those improvements to get yourself up to the 80-point mark. I actually recommend submitting with around 85 to give yourselves a bit of a buffer in the auditing process. So I think some people just submit at 80 and hope that they're going to remain above that threshold when the auditor then comes in. So submitting with 85 points is ideal. You're then going to pay a submission fee and a verification fee that's tailored to the size of your business. Usually a few £100s, I think, for SMEs. So not a massive barrier, but could be one depending on the size of your operations. And then you're going to be in evaluation and verification. So evaluation, an analyst, a B Lab analyst, will come in and just double check that all of the high level information you've given means that you can submit for B Corp certification. They may be changing that part of the process, which I'll touch on later. But that's just looking at, have you had any major issues in your business? Have there been any big risks? Is all of the high level information you've provided accurate and correct? And then the verification process is actually going through with the analyst how you've answered the questions. So they will initially send through some questions through the portal for you to upload evidence against. And then they will have a 1 to 2 hour sit down meeting with you, and will continue to ask questions about your operations. Hopefully that all goes well. They agree. They're all a really lovely, friendly bunch. I haven't had any issues with analysts being bad to work with or anything like that. They genuinely want to help you join the community, and they are proactively encouraging you, as opposed to being that barrier, which I think is a really good thing to know, because certification can already feel like quite a big, overwhelming thing to go through. So hopefully they will certify you. At that point, you celebrate, of course, because you put in all this incredible hard work. So you go out and you tell your community, you get that logo up everywhere, you share the news. You will have to do an impact report every year, which is something that I recommend businesses to do, whether you're a B Corp or not. That sits aside alongside your financial reporting. And then you recertify every 3 years currently. And I think that will remain, because that allows time in between certifications for that ongoing improvement cycle. So this isn't something that you just kind of set down once you've certified. You should be looking at your improvement plan and saying, great, we're certified. This is the next awesome thing we want to do to improve our performance over time. So all about those little steps to making your business more positively impactful, more protective of people and planet. Does that answer the process question?
Yeah, I think that's a really good overview of sort of what you need to do and sort of the different steps involved with that. So yeah, thank you for that. I think we've got a few questions sort of relating to the sort of process and follow up. I think Amy's had one come through just about engaging internal teams. So Amy, if you want to.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much. I've been sitting in the background managing the questions coming in. So one of them was around if you become a B Corp and you want to engage, announce with your team internally before you externally announce whether your intention to do it or that you've got that. Do you have any suggestions of how to do that well?
Oh, that's such a lovely question. Love that. First of all, yes, highly encourage bringing your team along on the journey from the very, very beginning. Because the assessment is so broad in nature, you're going to be needing help from people across the team, regardless of how big your business is. You're going to need impact from input from HR, from governance, so your board of directors, from operations to get that kind of carbon information through. So yeah, really kind of broad interaction with this is fantastic. We want everybody to be thinking about, how does my job impact the stakeholders that I am interacting with? That's really the mindset that we're looking for. There's lots of different ways to do it. I think I really love at the point of submission, having a bit of a call together or a group get together to hit the submit button together. It can, because it's just like an online thing where you're just pressing a digital button, it can feel quite underwhelming once it's done if you're doing it alone. If you do it with like everybody that's helped you on that journey over the past few months of improvement and really gathering all that information together, it is a fair amount of work. So being able to celebrate together is a really good thing. I think at the point of knowing that you want to do the assessment together, it's really about linking it to your why as a business. So linking it to your business mission and vision, and really making sure that people understand the reasoning behind going for it. It's not just a tick box exercise. I think that can put a lot of people off. If you can really story tell around it, behind why it's important for the business, why it's going to be important for them and all of the stakeholders that you're working with, I think that really energizes people and encourages people. And then working with them, taking suggestions throughout the entire process. It's a team effort. Knowing that you're not going to have all the answers, but you're probably surrounded by a bunch of brilliant brains who could come up with a solution to the problem that you're facing. So yeah, really collaborative way of thinking would be my couple of suggestions.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. That's a great answer about sort of collaboration within the team. Because yeah, we also had a question about sort of is it all on the business owner to sort of have to do it alone, or is it more about delegation? Can you delegate to other people? But I think you've answered that in the fact, yes, it's involvement of everyone from different departments. Is that essentially what you're
Exactly. I
suggesting.
think that the driving force needs to be from leadership. Without that kind of as the momentum that's pushing everything forward, and having that level of accountability to say, we understand that this feels like it's on top of your current job currently, but making sure that people understand that it's going to be a shift in how their day-to-day thinking around their responsibilities is going to be shifting over time. So yeah, making sure there's kind of a level of movement with the process, because it can end up getting stuck at several points, and if you don't have that buy-in from the whole team and that momentum pushing it forward, it can feel like a lot. So keeping people energized and moving with it is important.
Of course. Perfect. And just one general question about certification process. Is there a general length of time that it takes businesses to get certified, or is it does it completely vary from case to case?
It does vary from case to case, because it depends on where in the world you are. For us in the UK, the B Lab team has grown quite a lot, which is great. But yeah, it also depends on the track size that you're on, depends on the queue that you're in. But generally, they've brought the queuing times down from, I think at one point it hit like 14 months wait time, and now we're on that kind of 2 to 4 month wait time, which is good.
Perfect. Good. Well, thanks for that. Perfect. So yeah, moving on just to our next question. We just want to delve into the process a bit more, and our sort of what potentially are the downfalls of B Corp. If you could go into that a bit, that'd be great.
Absolutely. I think I've touched on a couple of these. The time involved can be a barrier. If this isn't something that your leadership team is completely committed to allocating resources to, whether that's making sure that someone on your team can be the project manager to lead you forward, making sure that there's, you know, at least monthly meeting time available to people, then that's where it's going to get stuck. It's not something that can be gone through at, you know, rapid pace unless you've got the buy-in from people. So time is very important. The cost can be a barrier. So there's those initial verification fees, and then I've forgot to mention there's those initial verification fees, which is a couple hundred, and then your certification fee at the end, which again varies on the size of your business. So the money aspect can be a barrier, but I would highly recommend going onto the B Lab website and using the calculation tool to figure out how much that would be for you. I think it's worth its weight in spades for what you get out of it, and for the recognition that it brings you to all of your stakeholders. The standards are very rigorous. There's a lot of questions, which can, of course, mean that there's complexity to the data that you might be trying to gather. You might be confused about the way that a question is worded. Some of it can be quite Americanized in its language. So yeah, it's an extensive process, and you kind of need a bit of focus time to be able to give to it. And yeah, the buy-in is a key one, making sure that everyone's on board. If you've got the buy-in, some time, and the money to do it, then I think certification for you is absolutely great. If you don't have those things, then I think either working with a consultant who can help you with those things is a great option, or just using the free tool so that you can still use the tool to improve your business, but not necessarily get certified.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think you touched on some great points of barriers to the entry of the process there. So thanks for delving into that. I think we had a few questions just about industry specifics and sectors. So yeah, you know, is the B Corp suitable for all sectors? Was sort of one of the questions that we got. Specifically, we had questions about a small IT business, or in the hospitality industry as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. So as I mentioned, there's over 160 industries represented. So the B assessment is very tailorable to your industry. There's There's restaurants who are B Corp certified. There's definitely a lot of IT services who are B Corp certified. Their assessments and what they're working towards looks slightly different, because obviously the impacts they're having are in completely different worlds, and B Lab definitely take that into account when building out the questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Just had another question in. There has been recent controversy with B Corp, B Lab, as some plastic polluters such as Volvic have been accredited. How do you navigate this conversation? And is this something you or others are concerned with as being part of the community yourself?
Yes, absolutely amazing question. And this is one of the reasons why the standards are evolving. And I think this was going to be the next kind of question that we covered off. It is it's definitely a difficult question to answer. My immediate reaction is, personally, of course, I hate plastic pollution. I try to avoid plastic wherever I can in my personal life. Throughout my journey on sustainability and becoming a sustainability professional, I'm recognizing more and more that as long as there's the will and the actual plans and the action in place to improve and to move away from bad practices, then I think it's fine for people who perhaps currently don't have amazing practices in a specific area to be part of the community. If they can showcase that they are moving away from bad practice into good practice, how they're going to do that, they've got some evidence behind them to show that they are moving in that direction, then I welcome them into the community. We're not going to get there alone. We're not going to get to the society that we want to build by excluding businesses out that perhaps aren't doing amazingly at the moment, but they want to do better. So yeah, it's definitely a very controversial issue, and my opinion is going to be different to a different B Corp consultant or a member of the community. But the standards evolution is trying to take some of those issues into account a lot more. So one of the big changes that's coming, and I'll talk about timelines shortly, is that at the moment, under the way that the current assessment works, there's 5 impact areas, and you can score your 80 points from anywhere across those 5 areas. So you could be doing amazingly in your environmental section, but be doing really badly in your workers section, but still get over the 80-point marker. There's no kind of like baseline questions where it says you have to be paying a living wage, you have to adhere to human rights, you have to have a carbon footprint analysis done. There's no absolutes in it. So that's one thing that's changing with the new standards. There's going to be baseline entry questions, as you have to have X, Y, and Z done to then move on to the optional questions of where you're mitigating negative impacts and advancing positive impacts. So I'm really looking forward to that change coming in. I think the standards evolution is taking a long time, because these are very, very complex questions that B Lab are having to go out to all of their global market to get feedback on. So it's definitely a complex web for sure.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and I think you're right. It's about welcoming those businesses that are wanting to change, because that's the whole point. We need to change those businesses that maybe aren't doing those practices but have a view to do that. So yeah, great. Well, yeah, good segue into sort of the next question. You touched on it there about the standards that are coming to the B Corp process. What other changes coming to B Corp?
So for some context, B Lab and B Corp has existed for 17 years. In that time, they've had 6 iterations of the assessment. They've all been in the same format as how you will see the tool today. This new evolution 7, was announced in 2020, and they're hoping to have the first stage of it launched in middle of next year. So it's been a 5-year process. There's been 3 major consultation rounds. There's some kind of process changes and implementations that are already kind of underway in the background. But the transition from the current model over to the new model, which is the biggest in its history, is going to be over a long period of time. So there's going to be a long kind of feed-in transition time. So the businesses that are already B Corp have stages of compliance with the new standards, and then there'll be kind of cohorts of new businesses coming onto the new standards, and they're going to be assessing as they go. So as I say, the subject matter within the assessment isn't going to change massively. What is going to change is kind of the shifts of focus over what is completely necessary to have, and what are the optional things that people can start getting points on. I'm actually not sure how the grading method is going to change. So yeah, shifts in the process and the focuses is going to be the biggest thing, alongside some additions. At the moment, there's no consideration of biodiversity within the assessment. I think that's going to be quite a major shift, and living wages is going to be a major shift as well. That forms just 1 or 2 questions in the assessment at the moment, but I think they're really going to be hammering down on that. So yeah, I think quite a few people come to me and said, do we need to get our assessment in now before the standards change? I would recommend starting earlier, as a point of, we need to save what's going on generally, is good. The sooner you get started, the better. And yeah, if you're able to kind of get your submission in within the next year, that may be easier for you and for any consultants that you're working with, or any other businesses, but the transition is going to be a long lead in time. So don't let it put you off, because there's going to be a lot of support there in that period.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, well, yeah, thanks for going into sort of the change. It's interesting to see how it's sort of evolved over its many iterations, and so I wasn't aware of that. So yes, it's good. It's nice to hear. So yeah, moving on a little bit. I mean, we wanted to sort of ask you how you thought sort of B Corp compares to other accreditations and certifications that are out there, just so we got a bit of a view of what else is out there and how B Corp stands against them.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are so many amazing tools out there for you to use and benchmark against, and to start digging down into how you can start benchmarking and looking at global standards that are going to help you on your pathway. So there's a couple of things that are certification adjacent. So for me and for most people that I speak to kind of in my position, B Corp is the only comprehensive ESG certification out there. There's things like Future Fit, which is a benchmarking tool which enables you to look at your pathway towards improvement. That does cover all ESG pillars, but it's not a certification. So you won't get kind of that stamp of approval at the end. You won't have an auditor coming in and saying, yes, you are doing this. No, you're not doing that. But it contains really great guidelines to be working towards. And in fact, the BIA does incorporate Future Fit initiatives within its framework. So Future Fit and BIA actually work quite closely together. So that's something, a good thing to look at. Then there's also EcoVadis, which again is a comprehensive tool. It covers all ESG pillars. It is also a certification. It primarily focuses on procurement and supply chains. So it has more of an outward focus into kind of your tier 1, 2, and 3 suppliers, looking at your global network. So this is really good for kind of manufacturing businesses, ones that have really complex supply chains that may number in the hundreds across the world. So if you're looking for support in trying to figure out who in your supply chain is doing well, surveys to get out to them, how to communicate with them, EcoVadis is the one for that. And then outside of that, we start looking at kind of environmental certifications that don't take into considerations governance or social aspects, or social certifications that don't necessarily take into account the governance and the environmental impacts. So Things like Planet Mark is a net zero certification, really highly rated, very trusted within the community. SBTI is a framework that you can put your net zero planning against and again get certified. GRI is a reporting standard, so not a certification, but good for understanding your environmental reporting. And that helps with standardizing across the EU, the UK and the US. Carbon Trust is, again, a really trusted carbon certification. And then, of course, we've just heard about Zella from BIPC, which is a free tool for carbon measuring, which sounds fantastic. And then we start looking at social standards. The social standards I'm less certain on. I know there's SA 8000, which is again, it's a standard, it's not a certification, so you won't be audited, and the social enterprise mark, which, yeah, looks at your social enterprise criteria. And then on top of all of that, we've got the ISO standards. So there are thousands of ISO standards. You may have heard them in various different aspects of your business. They cover things like health and safety, environmental management systems, social aspects against human rights and things. Thousands to look at. I do recommend going on their website. It can be very overwhelming, and they are very specific to the one practice. But for example, ISO 14001 is the certification that you need for your environmental management system. And that is something that B Corp looks at under the environmental impact section. So there's lots of things out there that can help you kind of figure out where you're at on your business journey and to help guide you. But as I say, they're either very specific or they're not certifications. B Corp has this overarching umbrella that is a certification that looks across all the pillars, that takes all of those pieces into account, recognizing that there's so many interdependencies across those different issues. And that's something that those other certifications or standards don't necessarily do in such an overarching way.
Amazing. Yeah, no, it's yeah, interesting to hear that. Yeah, B Corp is the sort of overarching one, and there's lots of other very useful tools, but may ignore other parts that potentially B Corp does delve into. So yeah, that's great. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, our sort of final question, just to leave our attendees with something to sort of think about, a little takeaway. I mean, what would be your sort of 3 things that small and medium businesses sort of can do to get started on that B Corp journey, or the sustainability journey in general?
Absolutely. So my first one is get on the BIA. It's free. You can sign up. You can start using it. You can start looking at those questions. Honestly, the amount of people that I take through the tool itself, and we just look at a couple of individual questions, and it just sparks an imaginative piece, or it just gets some inspiration going as to, oh, we thought we were doing quite well in this area, but actually we could add on this one additional piece, and it will just make the whole process easier, more efficient, or will take into account more stakeholders. So just taking a look at it to get some inspiration and to see how you're feeling in the different areas is definitely a great starting point. My second recommendation is to have a think about your mission and your vision, and that why behind why you're considering looking at your ESG performance and how that relates to your long-term mission and vision for the business overall. So that just really helps guide the decision-making process into what you're implementing now or what you're holding off on, what's important to getting that mission advanced, and to do that in a resilient way that's going to protect the business interests over the longer period of time. And then the final point, I was kind of stuck on this because initially I wanted to say, try and implement one thing that you're excited about in your business. Whether that's changing your bathrooms to be gender neutral, or just switching a supplier to something that's more sustainable, or forming a D&I group to start the conversation about how we look after our staff and our communities, something that connects with you personally, so that that excitement really comes through in the things that you're practicing. But then the news over the weekend has kind of made me shift my thinking around that a little bit. And I think I actually want to ask you all to do one thing that's a little bit braver. Things have been quite scary over the weekend, and I just really want to channel a fantastic sustainability advocate, Michaela Loach. She's a Brightonian, she's studied in Brighton, but she's been a very vocal activist for a long time. I went to a talk of hers a couple of weeks ago, and she asked us all to just do one thing that was a little bit braver than we might have done yesterday. And I think we just all need a little bit of that if we're going to fight for the society that we want to see in the long term. So that's what I'm going to leave you with.
Amazing. Yeah, that's a great ending point. I think that's yeah, really does hit home. As I said, it's been a bit of a scary weekend across the country, and yeah, I think small businesses and medium businesses are the way forward to start trying to change that. So yeah, thank you so much. I think Amy had a sort of follow-up question just after those few questions. So Amy, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Demi. Hard to follow on from that call to action, but there was a couple of questions sent through that I would love to ask you. So one of them, I guess this is about having a positive impact, but what are your views on the potential for this B Corp accreditation and businesses that have gone through that to have a wider impact on their local charities, whether that be through volunteering? Have you seen any really good examples of this, or what's your take on that?
Amazing question. Yeah, so this is this forms an entire subsection of the community impact area in the B Corp assessment. Something that I think they do really well to encourage people to think about is the differences between kind of one-off charitable donations that's just financial, longer term community partnerships, so really embedding in with a charity or a community group to enact change over a longer period of time, and then volunteering opportunities, like how much space and support are you giving your employees, and how much are you enacting as a business to help people go out for volunteering days or offer pro bono time. There's so many different ways that businesses can have an impact, and a much bigger impact than any individual could. For me, the really important work is done in that kind of longer term community partnership. So B Lab encourages those to be for a year or more. Generally, they last for between 1 and 3 years. And they really encourage looking at fully partnering with a charity or a community organisation to offer them time, support, money, across the board. So this enables businesses to kind of use the expertise that they have in-house to help a business. So I'm currently working with a marketing agency. They're giving some pro bono time to a charity to enable them to enhance their website and their social media, as well as they are a homelessness charity, so also helping with food donations, helping out at the centres. So working with the staff that you have. I worked with a company in London that shortlisted 3 charities and put those charities in front of the whole staff, the whole organisation, kind of did business cases for each of them, little kind of show and tells, and then asked the staff to vote for the one that they wanted to support that year. They wanted to make sure that organisation was local to the headquarters, so that people could physically go and support in person. So thinking about like what your priorities and your criteria are for the selection, getting everybody involved in that decision-making process so that they feel more connected to it, more responsible for that partnership. And then working with them and the organisation that you have selected to really speak to them about what it is that they need over that long period of time. It's no use creating a partnership like that and then saying, great, we'll give you 50k, but we're not going to get involved with you personally. So yeah, giving time and space to that can have a major impact.
Thank you, Demi. And then this is the final question that we've had through is around whether it's too early to set up as a B Corp. So in this instance, they're a small business and they've developed an app, but they haven't launched it yet. So they're very, very early stage of the business. And yeah, I think that's what they're trying to get across. Is it too early to set up as a B Corp, or can you do it when you're at that stage?
Really great question. And I'm in a similar situation in that I have been running my own consultancy, Hearth Sustainability, since the beginning of the year. And so to register and to certify as a full B Corp, you need to have been operating for a year. This is a really great question. If you have been operating for less than a year, you can submit your application in its current state and ask for pending B Corp status. And so that will cover you for a year before you've had that kind of full financial year of operations. From that point onwards, you can then submit with that higher than 80-point mark to submit for full certification. But this allows you to show your intention that is the pathway that you are on. You have to be a for-profit business and you have to be a company. So I'm also currently registered as sole trader, so that is also a barrier for me currently, but I'm still setting up my business with all B Corp principles. So I've already prepped my articles of association that will come into effect when I transition over to a limited company. I'm going through the assessment and making sure that I've got all my policies in place, making sure that when I'm going out to my stakeholder groups that I'm enacting my mission and vision in a way that's really core to me alongside B Corp principles. So I don't think it's ever too early, but in terms of practically where you can get to, those are the stages that you need to go through.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Demi. Well, yeah, well, I'm aware that we're getting near to the hour mark. And yeah, it's been, as everyone's saying, it's been such a great session. Thank you so much. I just want to, give you a bit of space to just tell everyone sort of the services that you offer and sort of how to get in contact if people want to get in contact. And I think there's a program that you're currently working on, a project that you're currently working on as well.
Yeah, amazing. So as I say, I've been operating Hearth Sustainability since the beginning of the year, but I've been in sustainability for the past 4 years, both in New Zealand and here, working internally as a sustainability manager and externally as a consultant for a London consultancy. So have come out on my own because I really want to help my local Brighton community. And I think London corporations have a lot of support. I wanted to really focus on what's going on in the south and in and around Sussex Bay. I've got a colleague, Ella, who should be on the call. We recently, so recently as this morning, have announced that we have decided to set up a cohort model for taking groups of businesses through the B Corp certification. We've kind of seen that, well, me and Ella do very similar things. In that we're both B Corp experts, both sustainability experts, and a great thing about meeting people in this community and the Brighton community is that it's all about collaboration and coming together. So Ella and I just really thought 2 heads are better than 1. We can offer more support this way. So I'm actually going to hand over to Ella very, very briefly just to introduce herself and what the cohort model can do, just for a minute. If she's on the call.
Is Ella?
I'm not sure she's on the call. Just checked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something must have happened. Okay, I will briefly say we're looking, this is going to be our pilot model. As I say, we've announced it this morning. We're looking for 4 to 6 businesses to come through on this cohort model with us. It's going to be run across 6 or 7 sessions in which you'll get mine and Ella's expertise, taking you through each of the 5 impact areas, the B Corp certification and submission process, and you'll have the knowledge and the support from the community of other businesses as well. Historically, consulting can be fairly expensive. Me and Ella want to remove that as a barrier, and so we're offering this out for this initial pilot project. We're offering it out at I believe £900 a business, because we're offering a 10% off discount to the standard fee for this initial group, as it is a pilot. Really excited to get it off the ground and running. Had lots of kind of general interest just from speaking to people, kind of saying, you know, standard consulting fees can be quite expensive. The one-on-one isn't completely necessary. So we just wanted to make this more accessible. And then on top of that, if you are a minority-owned business, we're offering a major discount to one organisation per cohort to come through on that with us, because we want to support where we can. So yeah,
Amazing.
if anybody's interested, there's going to be an expression of interest that Luke's going to send out with all the other information.
Yeah, well, that sounds absolutely great. So thanks for sharing that. And yeah, as I said, we'll share more information and how to get in contact on our follow-up. I just want to say, firstly, thanks so much, Demi, for taking us on that session and really going into the nitty-gritty of the B Corp process and allowing us to know your expertise in that area. It's been absolutely fantastic. If you're not a member of ours and you're interested in getting more involved with the Brighton Chamber, please do get in contact with me. We're a business support networking organisation. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming along. That's the end of the session. And again, thank you, Demi, for the fantastic session.